Hi, I'm Robyn Yack,
I'm Cheryl Koffman, and we're from Robyn and Cheryl Real Estate.
and this is the S.M.E. Stories Podcast.
You are now listening to the next great small business podcast. Welcome to the S.M.E. Stories Podcast, where it is all about small businesses in Canada. And here's your host, Ken Alfred.
If someone wanted to be an investor, how would they go about getting involved with I guess Cloverfield Properties? You said.
I guess they should reach out to Clover Properties directly and qualify as on the investor side.
Okay,
Yeah,
well, that's pretty cool. So, have you guys heard of any good news stories that you'd be willing to share for some of the work you guys done with these guys?
This is something relatively new for us. But I mean, they have a ton of stories. One of the things, and this is another good person that this would appeal to. So, as you know, a lot of the condos that were purchased on spec many, many years ago, they're now starting to close. And a lot of the buyers who thought they had the money, the values have changed now, and when they go to close, the mortgage person or company isn't willing to give them the mortgage that was needed. And so in many cases, they would have to walk away, lose a deposit, and possibly get sued. But this is an alternative that they could reach out to us and Clover Properties and have an investor come in, buy the property so that they take over the purchase of the property. They don't lose all their deposits because those are already there. So they already had that money. And then Clover Properties will figure out how long it will take them, whether it be 2 to 4 years, so that they can become owners of that. That's one circumstance. And then another circumstance is, again, very often real estate agents have a buyer client and they go to purchase a property and they put in an offer, but then on closing, something happens. Maybe the buyer client, I don't know, was dumb and bought a car with a lease or took out a loan or something, although they tell you not to. But for whatever reason, on closing, the mortgage agent isn't willing to fund the deal anymore. And deals have been saved because Clover Properties has come in and helped so that they can keep the property.
Yep. Deals fall through all the time because the buyer can't close because they don't have enough money all the time. So having an alternative where, someone can call us and say, hey, I've put this money down, or another agent can reach out to us and say, my client can't close this deal. Can you guys help me? So, instead of the deal folding, everyone wins, right?
So it brings us to another question. So, okay. I'm just trying to understand from the user's perspective. Okay, so I work with you guys. I work with and I want to make the apology. It's not Cloverfield. It's Clover Properties.
Clover Properties, yes.
I keep thinking of Cloverfield the movie. So sorry, that's my mistake. Clover Properties. Okay, so you work with that. You find an investor, and it's something where is there like an interviewing process between the buyer and the investor, or is it you're kind of like, yep, this is who you're going to be with, or how does it work that way?
So they come to us. We then connect them to Clover Properties. They will do the interview. They will do the qualification. They have the forms to fill out. Once they're qualified, then they'll circle back to us and say, okay, your client is now qualified. They have a budget of up to, let's say, $700,000. Then what we'll do is start pulling properties for them in that price range. We don't go above their maximum price range. And then we start taking them out to see the property. So like Robyn said, they're actually we're not choosing it for them. They're choosing a property they want. Now, they might have to go a little bit outside of the GTA because the budgets for the houses might be a little bit lower. So they might have to go, to Whitby or one of the, like Barrie or one of the outlying areas. But again, they're picking the property that they want to pick. And then it's like a regular sale. We show them the properties. And if they're interested, then we get the investor involved who's been matched with them. And then when we do the paperwork, it's actually in the investor's name on the paperwork. The investor is actually, even though the rent-to-own buyer is putting down their 4 to 5% deposit, we actually represent the investor on the paperwork.
Okay. And if there's any issues, right? Because so the investor is working with the buyer, They've said, okay, here is the monthly payment or whatever the payment arrangement's done. Have you guys have heard or any situations where there's any kind of like, it's not like a landlord tenant butting of the heads, but have you seen or heard of any issues between the buyers and the investors for whatever reason? I mean, I can't imagine what would be, because you said these are, it is people helping people, but you never know, right?
Well, here's the thing. They have skin in the game. So if they miss payments or they're not following through on their end of the deal, ultimately they're going to lose their deposit, which is their $15,000 or $20,000 that they put down, which is why it's very smart for them to do that and, have the rent-owned buyer have skin in the game, because they're the ones that are going to lose their deposit if they're not making their payments or if something goes through. But I guess that would be up to Clover Properties and the investor to decide when they're going to pull the plug, kind of thing.
Well, I think that's what separates it too from an investor rent to own buyer versus a landlord tenant. Right, because that's the issues that we always hear in the news of them fighting over something, right? Because they're not paying rent. Well, yeah, you put me up in a hellhole kind of thing. You never fixed the toilet or something to that effect. So there's a lot of like very contentious things, but it sounds like in this case there doesn't seem to be. It's not a major thing, like, because obviously you got people that actually want to they're putting their skin in the game. They said they're putting up some money, so it's not just your typical tenant, which is like what, first and last month's rent.
Right.
Yep.
And that's all they're doing, right? And so it's a sizable chunk of more money than a simple renting out. So let me ask you this then. So that monthly payment, I mean, I don't know how generalized you can make it be. How is that comparable to, like you said, whether it's renting? I have a little
chart here.
Or
I'm gonna actually read from a little chart here that I have from some of the materials we've been studying. So, so let's say it's a $600,000 property. Okay. Through the bank, the minimum down payment 5%, is about $35,000.
Right.
Okay. Private mortgage company, same $600,000 property. They want 25% down, so you're putting down about $150,000 on the property. Okay. Then you have the rent to own through Clover Properties. The credit, they don't need good or excellent. It can be low or even none. Same $600,000 property, you're putting down $30,000. So this is the monthly payment. So through the bank, the monthly payment is $38.40.
Right.
Okay. Through the private mortgage, it's $35.25. Through Clover, it's $4,092. So it's slightly higher payment, but literally not even $200 more than the bank. And don't forget that you're not paying the closing costs.
Right, because how much is that? The closing cost is like they say 1% to 2%, which is roughly.
Closing cost is about, let's say on a $600,000 property, can be around $12,000 through the bank. If you're doing it through a private mortgage company, it's more like $26,000 because you're paying lender fees and broker fees.
Right.
So you're not paying any of that either. So really, it's no cost to the rent-to-own buyer. There truly is no cost to them on closing.
Right.
And the monthly payment is split. So a portion goes to the investor and a portion goes into forced savings for the deposit. So it's kind of like you're paying rent, except part of it, is going into savings for you for the future. Basically.
So in that example, Cheryl, did you mark down how much the savings amount was?
No, I don't have it on here.
So I believe the example was somewhere between $400 and $600. If you actually take off the savings amount and you compare that amount to the mortgage and the private mortgage, you're actually equal or less. And then keep in mind that the rent payment, it includes property taxes, which if you're taking a mortgage out on your own, you have to pay on top of that property taxes.
Right.
So the property taxes are included in that payment, and so is the house insurance.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And your house insurance is actually renter's insurance. It's the same insurance. It's just contents insurance.
That's all you would need.
It's the same insurance you'd be buying if you're renting something. So you don't need the whole gamut of home insurance. You just need content because the investor will cover the other parts of the insurance, which is like fire and the main parts of the insurance.
Right. And and that would be, if you look at the two mortgage amounts, that's not included in that. right? As homeowners,
Absolutely.
you have to
Yep.
pay. I pay my mortgage. I also pay house insurance, and I pay property taxes on top
Yep.
of my mortgage.
Yep.
This
So
is
it
all in one
actually,
fee.
yes, this is
This
an
Yeah.
is an
all-in-one
all-in-one. So you're
fee.
right, it is cheaper then. Yeah.
Nice.
And yeah. So it's there's a lot of advantages if you're a person who qualifies for it and who can't get a typical mortgage. Definitely advantages doing
Yeah.
this. And
Yeah.
like I said to you before, we get people asking us all the time when we have signs up, would the owner be willing to rent to own? And most
And
people will not be.
No.
well, let me ask you this then. I guess the question I guess people have as well is that, okay, like, so right now there's not really a way. So like if you try to go through, realtor.ca and try to look for homes or anything like that, I haven't looked in a while. There's not a rent to own option, right? Because you could say, oh, I want this many bedrooms or whatever, or for sale by owner. I think I've seen that was one time. I don't know if that's still a thing now, but is there anything like that for something, or the best place would be coming to you guys specifically?
Yeah. I mean, the reality is the way Clover Properties has set themselves up is when they were going through the process of making this program, they coordinated with real estate lawyers and with mortgage brokers because they wanted to have it set up so that when the 2 to 4 years ends, the person is mortgage ready. So every deal is 80% is like fixed and 20% is customizable. So in the background, they are working with the buyer tenant to make sure that they are doing on a month-to-month basis what they need to do to either add to their savings and to repair or improve their credit. Pay off this debt, do this. They're working with them behind the scenes so that on the deadline or the end date, they know that when they go to apply for the mortgage to take over the house, that they will be approved.
So you mentioned before that sometimes so explain to me then, when you guys are looking for property, so from the user's perspective, they have the money for the down payment and they have the investor with them and they're looking at houses. How do you combat with the other agent when, this is going to be kind of like I guess maybe you don't have to really disclose a rent to own option.
Oh,
It's
it's
really
actually
just
great. It's
because
perfect
it's just the investor is going to be the one buying it, right? So I
right.
guess that's
So
the
they've
question
already
of it.
been vetted.
Oh,
They already
okay.
have money. We already have the down payment. Actually, it's easier because we're bringing them a really strong buyer, because don't forget, it's the investor that's going on the paperwork. So that works in our favor. So let's say we're in a multiple bidding war. We can say to the other agent, we've got someone who we know is going to go through. This deal's not going to fall through. They've already
Yes.
been vetted. We know they have the money. We know they have the deposit. So it actually works in our favor.
Okay, so yeah,
But
because
that's a good
I
question.
guess
Yeah.
part of me was thinking like, okay, you have the tenant-owned buyer that wants to do it, and you said we want to do a rent to own, and the average person who's like trying to sell their home, they're like, what?
Right.
No,
Well, it doesn't
right? But
matter to the seller.
exactly now,
Exactly.
that's what I'm saying,
Somebody's
because it's
buying
the
it.
investor buying it. They don't know
Exactly.
that the investor is going to be doing a rent to own.
No, and
So,
we wouldn't tell them that either. But
exactly.
we are bringing them a very strong buyer.
Right.
Yes.
Right. So when so many deals fall through because so many buyers cannot have, things together, we know that we're bringing in a buyer that's got everything that they need on the table.
So how would this program, like, so everything you hear about in the media, the housing shortage and how to pitfalls. How much do you think this could actually really help that? Because I mean, at the end of the day, I think part of me is thinking, okay, we just still need more stock of homes. The homes are not being built fast enough. So how much impact do you think having a rent to own more in the province and the country, would that be more helpful, or do you think it might drive up prices even more up, or what's your opinion on that?
I think that part of the problem now is that rental rates are really high.
Yeah.
And so the affordability and the availability is so slim. So giving this option really does, I mean, ultimately, I think everybody wants people to have home ownership. It's better for the economy if people are buying homes and owning homes. So I actually think that this helps the situation. No, it doesn't help in terms of necessarily the availability, and that, we do need more homes to be built. But if, like, part of the problem is that you're going to have condos closing and they're not going to close, and then that's actually going to be a detriment to the builders. So I think overall this can help in a lot of the different facets of the real estate environment.
And just to add to that, because so many people rent now because they can't afford a home, right? The rentals are really hard to find, and the rental prices are really high. So this actually takes a bit of pressure off the rental market, getting people into their own home. And also because the budgets for this might be a little bit smaller, again, they might have to go out of the GTA a little bit, which also takes some pressure off the GTA because it's so inundated right now. So I actually think it's a positive thing. And actually the government at one point was doing a rent to own, or they started to do a rent to own program, but I don't know if that ever actually went through and if they still have it now. They started to do it, and they were going to do it for condos. And I haven't heard much about it in the last few years, so I don't know.
I was going to ask your opinion on the whole condo thing, because I think I remember watching a video on YouTube where they were saying that, before COVID and all that, some of the best markets to invest in is buying pre-built condos and just renting them out, right? But then I think one of the things I heard was that the reason why there's so many condominiums available is that for a lot of these condos, a lot of the units were more like studio or a one bedroom. So if you have a family of four, it's just not big enough for all of them to come in. And do you guys see that to be the case, or was that thing totally off?
No, I think that's true. But then also the larger condos, they're just so, like Cheryl said, a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom condo is like somewhere between $3,000 and $4,000. So if you have, and this is like, we're just trying to find something for 2 girls. If you have a family, you're looking at a 3-bedroom condo. You're going to look at $5,000-$6,000 plus dollars. Like it's
just unaffordable. It's unaffordable. Yeah. And you know what? With all the market uncertainty,
right?
Like buyers are still standing on the sidelines, right? And we just got the tariffs yesterday. Like people are nervous. So
the condo market is the market that is struggling the most and is predicted to struggle the most over the near term.
So what then? So I guess, what's your advice? I'm going to give you a couple of questions. One is, what's your advice for just the general condo owner who's trying to get rid of it? Is there anything they can kind of do? I don't know, to make it, because if they can't make more space, right? Because that's not how it's going to work. And is it just always selling at a loss or renting at a loss? Or I don't even know. What advice would you give them?
I think and Cheryl, you can, put your 2 cents in, but I think the main thing for any seller right now, and this is not only for condos, is you have to be realistic. I think a lot of people still have their head in the clouds for the last few years, and they're not willing to listen to their real estate agents on guidance. And you see condos that are sitting for 100+ days because they're just not willing to lower their price. So if you're not willing to lower your price, then it's going to sit. If you price totally to sell, your condo will sell.
I think that's with any property you're trying to sell in this market. You have to be realistic. And unfortunately, sellers are still kind of lost in the days a few years ago when the market was really, really hot and everyone was getting, 10 offers for their place, but it's not like that right now. So you have to adjust your thinking with the market trend. Right. And like Robyn said, a lot of sellers don't do that. And so those condos, we just bought a condo for someone a few months ago. And I'll tell you, those condos, agents were calling me like, I'll give you this, we'll give you this % off, we'll give you extra commission. Like they're so desperate to sell, they can't move the properties.
Wow. I mean, it makes you think then. So what are they going to do with all these? I don't know how you're going to get rid of these condo units or anything. Like you said, it's hard to sell unless they lower their expectations. Might have to take the loss on it, but that might be the only way from it. What is your thought? Like, you remember during the pandemic where they were suggesting like, all this, back then when no one could go back to the office, that there was always talk of, oh, we'll convert some of these commercial units into live-in residential units. I literally saw a CNBC video where they actually show that during the pandemic, people actually they converted a mall into like an actual live-in residence for like I don't know how many people. Like I think it was a two-story mall, two-floor mall, and the top floor was all live-in units that used to be all commercial, and the bottom they did keep the commercial things. So they had like a cafe, a dry cleaning service. I'm like, with the way malls are going, I don't know if you guys have a lot of opinion on the commercial real estate side of it. You know, people aren't going to malls as much as they used to. Is that something that maybe they should think about?
Well, I think realistically, we have to try and think outside the box with everything. I mean, there's a lot of commercial properties that are sitting too. And yes, you're right, malls have to be rethought. And so, I mean, in certain areas, not so much in the GTA, but I mean, in the States and other geographical locations, they are rethinking what they're doing with malls. And I think that's what we have to do. I mean, otherwise the space is just going to sit there, and we have to be open-minded.
Well, yeah, that and tiny homes. My wife was, I don't know if I told you this. She actually wanted me to get, she was trying to convince me to do a tiny home. And I said, okay, then we're going to get two. One for you and one for me. That's the way it's going to work, because it's just too tiny.
Yeah,
but
too tiny.
Yeah, but the funny thing is, though, some of the newer stuff on YouTube, damn those algorithms, where you'll take a look at a tiny home, then I'm getting all these listings of tiny homes of them doing a walkthrough. I'm like, damn, that's actually not that bad. I think it's maybe the time when she was telling me this was maybe like 4 or 5 years ago, maybe where it was very limited. But now with the push towards, maybe a little bit of a push towards tiny homes, you're like, okay, looks like a home might not be too bad. Look, you can squeeze more.
Some of them are great.
Some of them are great. And what's your opinion on manufactured homes? Like those ones, I don't think we hear a lot of.
I think it's a smart idea. Well, they're doing those little tiny homes now sometimes for homeless people downtown. They just started doing that. It's a good idea. Listen, you know, anything where we can provide housing in a cheap cost for people in a tough economy is always a smart idea.
Yeah, I think it's something to definitely consider, right?
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, I mean, you know, it sucks having to see people on the street when, you know,
Terrible.
You just want sleeping, especially in the hot summer or the cold winter.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's really hard, right? Then it goes to the question, like, you want to help, but then sometimes you don't know if you try to give them money, if it'll help them or not. That's something. And I felt really bad for this one. I'm sorry to put a little damper on this little story here, but I was at a work function, you know, a while ago, and it was something where, you know, we were playing, I think it was a bocce tournament. It was a really great thing. So we're out in the summer. It's great. We see this homeless man come up to us, and, you know, we bought some pizzas and some drinks, and, you know, and we're like, he was walking by, we can tell, he's like, hey, you know, we had all this extra pizza. We weren't gonna eat. Wait, do you want this pizza? And he's like, do you have any alcohol? Any beer? I'm like, but no, we got pizzas for you. We got pizzas, waters. Oh, it's okay. I need beer. And I'm like, oh, damn it. Why couldn't that have been a better? Because if we gave it to him and he would have been so happy, I'm like, man, maybe he's going to spread it to more of his friends and they can share it. And I'm like, oh, man, I don't know how that's another thing we have to worry about as well. But all right, remove that point. Forget that fun stuff. Get that stuff.
That's a good story. Yeah.
You know, so this is a really cool thing. I think you mentioned you guys did a summit of some kind as well. What was that?
So we just hosted a summit, and we actually are just scheduling our next one. So all the collaborators in the book wanted to take it one step further and be able to offer to people who are going through this, contemplating this, or whatever stage, to be there, present some information that we did in the book. And so there was different speakers, and we all presented in different manners. And then there was an open forum for questions and answers. So we had it a couple of weeks ago. It was very successful. We had some sponsors. We gave away prizes. So it was a full day event. We are going to be doing it again in September, the week of September 15th. This time we're going to be doing it over 5 days, from 10 to 12 each day, because we got some feedback from some people who couldn't attend that it was hard to attend the full day. And then we're going to also offer, if people can't attend, that they will get a video recording of it. So again, in September is one of the key times that people actually make the decision or start the process after the summer when the kids go back to school. So that's when we're going to be hosting the Ultimate Divorce Game Plan Summit, our second edition.
Interesting. And so you said there are people like, so you're saying that this is open to anyone, obviously, who wants to go. So so is it a lot of mainly women, or do you see sometimes actual couples who are in the process of either separating or divorcing, so so they both kind of know the information, or
It was
how does that
mainly
work?
women.
Mainly women.
Yeah, it was
Women?
mainly
Okay.
women.
Yeah.
But that's not to say. I mean, aside from
But men are free to come.
Yeah, we had speakers. Some of our speakers. We had a family lawyer, and we had a certified divorce financial accountant. They were both men. But it's a great thing to either come as a guest. It's free of charge. Or to if people are in the divorce industry and are interested in sponsoring, we'll have lots of sponsorship and potential speaker opportunities as well. So it's something that we're very proud of. For us, real estate is not just a transaction. It hasn't been from the get-go. And we really want to help people through the whole gamut go from stress to success.
Yeah, because it's already a stressful time already having to go through a divorce. I mean, unless there's for some reason the easiest transition. I mean, I've never, unless you guys have seen that in the past where you have like, wow, this couple is actually really good. Why are they getting a divorce again? But they were just so amenable to each other. They were still friendly. They were cordial. They're professional. And it wasn't, because everyone thinks of divorce, they think of like the punching of the bad butting of the heads. But have you guys seen actually where it's actually been very, I wouldn't say nice,
I
but
have in my personal life, but a lot of the clients we deal with, it's butting heads. We deal with a lot of tough situations, and we deal with a lot of situations where we're not even talking to the clients. We're just talking to the lawyers or the mediators or the trustees. Sometimes we don't even talk to the clients at all. So our situations, from our experience, the clients we work with, it tends to be a bit of a tough situation on both sides.
But there are I can say my current boyfriend had a very amicable separation with his ex-wife, shockingly. But it takes a person, a strong person, to do that. And Cheryl knows him, and it's because of him that they had a very amicable. He wasn't interested in the confrontation, so he made sure it was amicable. So kudos to him. Kudos to them.
Yeah, kudos.
But as Cheryl said, I mean, I went through it. Mine was not amicable. I mean, we're amicable now, 20 years later. But it's rare.
Yeah, and to make a lighter note on this one, when you talk about amicable divorce, I actually got into a car accident many, many, many years ago. This is probably back in like 2009, maybe 2010 or something like that. And I hit the best person you could possibly hit because it was something so weird. We were at a stoplight or a stop sign, and for some reason I thought they would have went. So it's not like I rear-ended them, but it's a slight nudge. And at that point, I was like, oh man, that sucks. And they didn't freak out. They just said, oh, we looked at it because it's a long time ago. I can't imagine it working this well now. But they're like, yeah, you know what? $300. I said, that's it? I said, yeah. We literally met up at a McDonald's. We actually had dinner together and chatting like I'm chatting with you guys right now. And I'm like, you are the best people to hit because no one else, you could expect something very contentious, but they were easy peasy about it. They were, I wouldn't say happy, but they got their money, and I didn't have to pay over $1,000+ and who knows how much repairs it could have been. So it's very interesting to see stuff like that.
That's the exception.
That's
Yes.
essentially rule.
That's
Now,
it.
so just so I know, then, so the summit that you're going to be happening again,
Mhm.
right? Anybody can attend.
Yep.
So do you have to buy tickets for that or anything like that?
It's free. You'll have to sign up. We
Okay.
will we will be posting on social media leading up to it, probably in the early summer, late
Okay.
spring. But yeah, anybody can attend, and we strongly encourage, whether it be you or people you know, and you can attend anonymously. So it's going to be on Zoom. You can, we encourage people to stay off camera. You can put your name as anonymous, like you don't have to have your name there.
Oh, I thought it was like online, like in person or something
No,
like
it's
that
going to
too.
be, it's on Zoom.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, I'm like, oh man, maybe we get tickets. I'll bring my wife. And then my wife's like, why are we getting this divorced thing here? Is there something you're not telling me? I'm like, no, I know. They were on my show.
You're just
They want
supporting us.
that I'm supporting them. And so I'm just saying.
Appreciate that.
Appreciate that as well. So, all right, let's finish it off here with just some rapid fire questions. Now,
Oh, God.
I've already asked you the typical rapid fire questions, so I'm going to change it up just a little bit
Okay.
now. Okay. So, both of you guys, I hope you guys are ready for this.
Oh,
Okay.
God.
In your opinion, question number 1: what is the best and worst movie sequel ever made?
The best and worst movie sequel. Oh my God.
Can we say a prequel? Does it? Can it be like?
What's the
No,
prequel?
I
no, I'm kidding. You can.
I would say Wicked, to the
I'm
Wizard
gonna
of
say
Oz.
Grease.
That was amazing.
Wasn't Grease too terrible?
Yeah, that was terrible. But I would say an amazing prequel would be
Was what?
would be Wicked, to Wizard of Oz. It was
Wicked to
fabulous.
Well, yeah, it's not bad actually. The ones I was thinking of for myself was a little bit old school. Was like one of the best and one of the best sequels. Obviously, to me, Austin Powers 2 was I found to be very funny compared to the first one.
Okay.
Never saw it. Yeah.
Which was nice. And I think one of the best sequel and one of the worst sequels. I'll say best sequels, even though we're outside the holidays. We're filming this in February, but I had for the guests I had over the holidays, I would always ask them what's their best and worst Christmas movie. And they said, Kim, what's yours? I said, okay, the best Christmas movies were Home Alone 1 and 2. The worst Christmas movies was Home Alone 3, 4, and 5.
Funny.
Right? Because you take out Macaulay Culkin and the two villains, it's just not the same.
Right.
But worst sequel, oh my God. Even back to the 90s, I'm a 90s guy. Mortal Kombat. If you ever watched the first one, the first Mortal Kombat, if for those who are not familiar, it's a video game from the 90s that was very popular.
Okay.
Right.
It was like it was combating with like the Street Fighter 2. So that shows how old I am right now. But when Mortal Kombat, the first one came out, it was 1995. It was the first movie I ever saw twice that I was willing to pay for.
Okay.
I would save up my allowance. But then when I heard they came out with a second one, but then I realized I didn't know this, but then half the cast left. So you had some people who replaced characters that were in the first one that didn't look the same, and it was really bad. So that's the worst one. Okay. The next ones are going to be related to almost food. So I always love food. I don't know if you guys are foodies. I know we talked about wine last time, but this time it's going to be a little bit lighter. So, all right. What is your favorite dessert?
Oh, that's easy. Lemon meringue pie.
Lemon meringue pie for sure. All right. Sounds good. How about you, Robyn?
Ice cream.
Any flavor?
Either Baskin & Robbins chocolate chip is actually my favorite.
Ooh.
I like that one too.
if it's ice cream, it was
the mint chocolate chip, I should say. Actually.
Mint chocolate chip.
Yeah,
okay. For me, it's always been for Baskin Robbins. I used to be like, my wife makes fun of me all the time because I usually like vanilla because I'm very plain.
Me too.
Right?
Yeah.
Really?
But I fell in love with my mom's favorite one, which is Jamocha almond fudge. For some reason, if it's from Baskin Robbins, if you're talking about, but if you're talking about dessert of all time for me personally, it is my mom's pineapple chiffon cake.
Ooh,
so think of it as a pineapple upside down cake, but where the pineapple's on the bottom, right? But the funny thing is, I have tried to make that cake 11 times with my mother. I have failed 11 times. Now, my defense is I'm blaming my oven.
Oh.
I could just be missing that the special ingredient is love because there must be something. So my mom is actually going to be coming to stay with us this coming weekend. And I'm like, okay, we are going to make this cake because I got to figure it out because I've had the recipe for years, but no matter how much I try and do it, I cannot get it done.
So let us reach out and let us know how it goes.
I will.
Now we're curious.
But that's what I'm saying is that, you know, That is my favorite. And when you try to YouTube a recipe on it, it's usually done by a Filipino mother. I don't know why.
Okay.
It is. All right. What is your favorite? What's your best toppings on a hamburger?
I would say tomatoes, onions, pickles, and mustard.
Ooh, nice.
I like caramelized onions,
That's good.
lettuce, and mayo. Those are usually my toppings. I'm a
So
simple burger person.
So where is the best burger you've ever had? That's a follow-up.
There's a couple places. There's actually a place in Hamilton sometimes we go to. I think it's just called Burger. They have amazing burgers there.
It's literally called Burger?
I actually would have to look it up and let you know.
Okay.
And then you can tell your viewers. They have the best burgers there. It's on King Street in Hamilton, but I can't remember what it's called.
Is it called The Works?
No.
Okay.
It's not The Works.
Okay.
I've heard of The Works.
I
The
would
Works
say
is pretty good.
The Works is pretty good. That's one of my favorites. A lot of people say Shake Shack.
And Burger Priest is good too.
Burger Priest is not bad. I like Burger Priest. I'll say, if you guys ever visit the East End, go to Bistro 67.
Okay.
So Bistro 67 is
actually
run.
Down.
It's actually run by the Durham. It's in Durham College. It's actually a separate restaurant that the culinary students actually work in.
Cool.
And I remember this one thing. So I had their B67 burger. So that's I'm throwing it out there. It has roasted marinated bell peppers, lettuce, smoked Ontario cheese, smoked paprika, parsley, aioli, and on a brioche bread. And I remember this because I took my wife there on a date night, and the burger was so good. I literally had to tell the waiter or waitress, compliments to the chef.
Wow.
And then they actually brought the chef out. And I said, I've been eating burgers for over 40 years. This is my absolute favorite burger. You've done an awesome job.
Where is this place?
It's at Durham College. But if you type up, if you look up Bistro 67, it'll show you the directions there. So if you're ever in the East End, like near Ajax in the Durham area, definitely go to that one. So that's a go in there. And last question before we wrap it up here. Can't believe it's been over an hour already. Is what is your favorite musical?
I know mine.
Well, that's easy. Mine is West Side Story by far.
Ah, nice.
And mine is Wicked.
Classic.
Mine is
and
Wicked.
Then Wicked. That's really
What's
good.
yours?
Mine or hers?
Yeah. No,
Mine
yours.
Mine is, I'm a little bit old school with this one too. For some reason, Les Mis.
Oh, that is
I remember
amazing.
seeing that
Yeah, that
in
is a
grade
favorite.
6, 1992. It was a school trip. And they said, your choices are Phantom of the Opera or Les Mis. But I did not hear my teacher say Les Mis. I thought it was Lake Mis. And for some reason, I was like, I don't want to see Phantom of the Opera because everyone was talking about Phantom of the Opera. Like, I want to see Lake Mis.
Yeah.
And that turned out to be one of my favorite musicals of all time.
That's great.
I remember listening to it on cassette. I remembered all the lyrics to almost all the songs there. I'm not a singer, right? And it's one of those things that if we did that in high school, where you do like I did acting classes in high school, but I never tried out for any plays or anything. If they had done Lake Mis, then maybe that would have been the only time I would have tried to audition. I wouldn't make any of the character. I'd probably be a background singer, but that's still okay.
Yeah.
But anyways, guys, this is an awesome episode. I can't believe it flew by so quickly here. So where can listeners reach out to you guys?
They can find us on our website at Robyn and Cheryl.com. Robyn with a Y and Cheryl with a Y. Or
and Cheryl with a C.
Cheryl with a C,
with an
yes,
S.
that's true. Yeah. Or on Instagram or Facebook at Robyn and Cheryl Real Estate, or they can reach us by email, Yack at gmail.com and Koffman
at rogers.com.
Well, awesome, guys. Thanks for being on the show. It was a pleasure.
It's always a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for having us back.
Hey, do you need an error-free website? Do you need transcription that's accurate and on time? Would you like to remove noise from your video or audio recording? Do you need a spokesperson for your business? If so, we can help. At Northway Capital Group, we are happy to announce that we are now providing website testing services, audio transcriptions, and audio cleanup, as well as spokesperson services. We would love to help you on your next project. Contact us for more information at northwaycapitalgroup@gmail.com.
Thank you for listening to the S.M.E Stories podcast, which is owned by Northway Capital Group. Please follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Northway Capital Group.